The year is 1688. England, a nation steeped in history and simmering with tension, is ruled by King James II, a Catholic monarch at the helm of the predominantly Protestant nation. The specter of religious conflict looms like an approaching storm, threatening to reignite the chaos of the past. James wasn't the first monarch to test the explosive mix of religion and politics. His father, Charles I, had already paid the ultimate price for it, leading the country into civil war and meeting his fate on the executioner's block. But by 1688, England was done with civil wars. Neither James nor his Protestant opponents wanted to relive that nightmare. Instead, they orchestrated a bloodless coup that would be immortalized as the Glorious Revolution. But here's the catch. History has a habit of wrapping its messiest moments in tidy labels. Glorious, sure. Bloodless, mostly. Yet beneath the surface lies a tale far more intricate than its name suggests. So if you're curious about how a king managed to lose his crown to his Dutch son-in-law in what might be history's most ironically named revolution, stick around. The truth behind the Glorious Revolution is as fascinating as it is nuanced. And in order to discover its complexities, let's start at the beginning. Like much of Europe, England was profoundly shaped by the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century. By the 1680s, the nation had weathered multiple waves of religious upheaval, each more chaotic than the last. At first, it was Mary I's reign. The Catholic queen earned the nickname Bloody Mary for her fervent persecution of Protestants, where burning dissenters at the stake became disturbingly commonplace. Then came the reign of James II's father, Charles I, whose religious conflicts escalated into a bloody civil war that ultimately led the monarchy being abolished for about a decade. It was against this backdrop of religious and political strife that James II ascended to the throne, stepping into a nation already tired of the mix of faith and power. Unlike his brother and predecessor Charles II, James's religious policies were far from ideal for maintaining peace in a deeply divided nation. It wasn't just that James had Catholic sympathies. His actions, like appointing Catholics to powerful positions and pushing for religious tolerance for Catholics, stirred up fears that history might repeat itself. And this time, people were ready to take action. It's at this pivotal point that a new character enters the scene, William of Orange, the Dutch prince and husband of James's Protestant daughter, Mary. William was no stranger to conflict. He had already proven himself as a tactician and leader capable of challenging oppressive regimes. But what made his invasion of England so unique was the way he positioned himself not just as a challenger of a monarch, but a savior of England, a defender of Protestantism. In fact, many of the nobles and political figures in England began to see him as their white knight. They reached out to him, inviting him to intervene. In a passage of this invitation, we read, "The people are so generally dissatisfied with the present conduct of the government in relation to their religion, liberties, and properties, all which have been greatly invaded, and they are in such expectation of their prospect being daily worse, that your highness may be assured there are 19 parts of 20 of the people throughout the kingdom who are desirous of a change." It was the kind of message that even the most hardened monarchs couldn't ignore. William, with a well-trained army and a legitimate claim to the throne through his marriage to Mary, accepted the invitation. On November 5, 1688, William of Orange finally landed in England, leading an army of around 14,000 men. And what happened next was honestly kind of a letdown in the bloodshed department. Instead of a massive bloody battle between William's forces and James's loyalists, the revolution happened quietly. William walks in, and James's support just crumbles. James's generals were like, "Yeah, about that whole loyalty thing, we'll just head to William's side, thanks." His army defected, and before long, James was fleeing London. I mean, it's not every day you see a monarch fleeing to France, but hey, when the people don't have your back, what are you supposed to do? It's easy to look at William of Orange as the hero of the Glorious Revolution. I mean, he did save England from a Catholic monarch with practically no bloodshed, right? But hold your horses. There is a whole other chapter of the revolution that we haven't covered yet, and that's the Battle of Boyne. Though the Glorious Revolution is often celebrated for its minimal bloodshed, the story doesn't end with James's departure to France. The ousted king wasn't about to go quietly into exile. With the support of Louis XIV of France, Europe's staunchest Catholic monarch, James started to reclaim his throne. And where did he start? Ireland, a country where Catholic loyalty to James still ran strong. In 1690, James landed in Ireland to rally support. His efforts culminated in the Battle of the Boyne, a clash that would pit James's forces against the newly crowned William III. The stakes were high, not just for the English throne but for the religious and political future of England. On July 1st, 1690, the armies met, with William leading approximately 36,000 men against James's smaller force of around 25,000. William's superior strategy and numbers quickly overwhelmed James's forces. James himself fled the battlefield early, earning him the not-so-flattering nickname James the Shit among his supporters. For William, the victory at the Battle of Boyne cemented his rule in England, Scotland and Ireland. It also dealt a heavy blow to Catholic hopes of reclaiming the British throne. The Protestant ascendancy in Ireland began to solidify, ushering in centuries of sectarian tension, a legacy that would outlive William and James by a long shot. For James, the battle marked the definitive end of his political ambitions. He would spend the rest of his life in exile, while William and Mary ruled a transformed England. Now let's talk about what this whole transition of power means. It wasn't just about the dethroning of a monarch, it was about fundamentally changing how England viewed the monarchy and power itself. If you've wondered why England doesn't have an absolute monarchy anymore, this revolution is your answer. The Bill of Rights of 1689 essentially said, okay, James, you are out, but also we are going to make sure that this never happens again. The bill limited the power of the monarch and gave Parliament a much bigger role in governance. The idea of divine right, that a king had absolute God-given authority, was practically out of the window. Now the monarch had to answer to Parliament, which was a massive shift in how power worked. And let's not forget about the religious impact. The Protestant victory ensured that Catholicism didn't re-enter England's political life, at least not without a serious fight. William and Mary's reign solidified Protestantism as the national religion, which wasn't just about the church, it was a political statement. Protestantism meant stability, while Catholicism meant chaos, at least in the eyes of many English citizens. So the next time someone brings up the Glorious Revolution, don't just nod along and pretend you know the full story. It wasn't just a quick and easy overthrow of a monarch. It was a revolutionary movement in English history that shifted the balance of power, altered the monarchy forever, and solidified the power of Parliament. While the Glorious Revolution might not have been as flashy as other revolutions, it was certainly just as important. In fact, the Glorious Revolution had some of the most long-lasting political consequences in European history. It laid the groundwork for modern constitutional governance and changed the very structure of the British monarchy. And while James II may have fled to France, the revolution he unwittingly sparked was far from a small matter. It's one of those quiet revolutions you'll probably never hear about in the same breath as the French Revolution or the American Revolution. But it deserves its time in the spotlight. So perhaps we can all agree a revolution can be just as glorious without the overwhelming gore. That's it for today's video, and I'll catch you on the next one.